he put his tongue in my mouth. I said, you know, I mean, it's about time, right?
After Robert Redford's passing, an unexpected storm of revelations has surfaced. For decades, Jane Fonda and Redford were linked both on and off screen, their partnership celebrated, and their bond shaping some of Hollywood's most iconic moments. But now, Jane Fonda's words have painted a very different picture from what everyone thought. What she said isn't just surprising. It casts a shadow over Redford's legacy, forcing people to see their connection in a very different light. Join us as we unravel the reality behind their long-lasting bond. Exit of a legend. On September 16, 2025, Robert Redford passed away in his sleep at his home in Sundance, Utah. He was 89 years old, and the news of his departure touched many hearts around the world.
Robert Redford was one of the greatest names in modern Hollywood. The 89-year-old actor died early this morning at his home in Utah. That's according to his publicist.
His longtime publicist confirmed that he left this life while resting, surrounded by his loved ones inside the home where he had spent his later years. No detailed medical explanation was offered, and no illness was officially linked to his passing. What was made clear was that he went naturally. His family remained close to him until the very end. He left behind 2 daughters, Shauna and Amy, who would carry forward his memory. His wife, Sybil Saggers Redford, stood by his side through every stage of his later life. At 68, she had built her own career, yet she never stopped supporting her husband in his journey through cinema, activism, and beyond. Together, they formed a strong partnership, each giving space to the other while walking side by side. News of Redford's passing traveled quickly across the globe, and tributes poured in from every corner. Fans took to social media to share their feelings, remembering the way his films had moved them. People wrote about how they had grown up watching his performances, how his characters stayed in their minds long after the credits rolled. The entertainment industry also stepped forward to honor him. Colleagues who had worked with him looked back on the influence he had on their own paths. Many described how he gave them chances, opened doors, or simply inspired them through his dedication. In their eyes, he was more than a star. He was a mentor, a collaborator, and a source of creativity who lifted others up. Redford's career stretched over 6 decades, and during that long span, he built a reputation that covered many fields. He first rose to fame as a leading man, known for his striking looks and his natural screen presence. But he did not stop there. He pushed forward as a director and producer, showing that his talent could move behind the camera as well. His work shaped the industry from several angles, and he never shied away from taking risks. He also carried his activism into the public space, speaking up about the environment, social change, and issues that he felt should not be ignored. Redford used his fame to push those conversations into the light. He stepped into the political conversation many times, sharing his concerns about how leadership could affect the country. He spoke out, sometimes with anger, sometimes with pain, but always with a belief that the people had the power to change things. At the time of his passing, Redford's fortune was estimated at around $200 million. Much of this wealth came from his long career in Hollywood, but his entrepreneurial spirit added to it. Perhaps the most enduring project tied to his name was the Sundance Film Festival. He had started it as a small idea, a way to draw attention to independent films that might otherwise be overlooked. That idea grew into one of the most respected film festivals in the world, a place where new voices were given a chance to step forward. His achievements earned him recognition at the highest levels. In 2002, he received the Academy Award for Lifetime Achievement, honoring his decades of contribution to film. But long before that, in 1980, his directorial work on Ordinary People had already proven his strength behind the camera. That film not only won critical acclaim, but also showed that Redford could take on any role in the process of creating a story. Beyond awards, his advocacy for environmental causes pushed his influence even further. He spoke up for the planet, using his platform to bring attention to issues that were often pushed aside. This mix of artistry and advocacy gave him a unique place in the cultural landscape, admired by both film lovers and activists alike. After his passing, obituaries appeared in major publications, each one trying to capture the scale of his life and influence. Variety described him as a guiding figure for independent film, someone who helped shape a movement that might not have survived without him. The Guardian reflected on how he defined American cinema in the 1970s, while the Los Angeles Times referred to him as an icon, a figure who represented his generation both on screen and off it. These words showed the reach of his impact, stretching across decades, genres, and even different forms of storytelling. He was not simply an actor who performed in front of the camera. He was a builder, someone who shaped the very structure of the industry. He lifted up new voices and used his success to shine light on causes far greater than his own fame. Over the years, he built a body of work that ran across generations, and even now, his influence continues to guide young filmmakers and activists. Redford's passing marked the close of a remarkable era in cinema, and his departure reminded the world of everything he had given. The end of his life brought sorrow, but it also brought reflection on the immense impact he left behind. In every way, Robert Redford stood as a figure who brought art, passion, and purpose together, and his story continues to move forward through those who were touched by his vision. However, there's something his longtime co-star had to say about him.
I think that I started fantasizing about him then. And so he has been a fantasy. Lewis was a fantasy of mine for a long time.
Jane Fonda struggled with deep grief when the news of Robert Redford's passing spread across the world. At 87, she had lived through personal and professional trials, but losing him at 89 struck her with a force that words alone could not fully capture. Their bond went back more than 60 years, a connection shaped on film sets, at premieres, in private conversations, and during long stretches of life. Yet through all of it, their friendship stood strong, becoming one of the rare lasting ties in Hollywood. Their story began in 1960, when both were still young actors filled with ambition, working together on Tall Story. From that first project, a rhythm between them formed. They went on to appear together in The Chase in 1966, then Barefoot in the Park in 1967, where their chemistry captured audiences. In the years that followed, they reunited in The Electric Horseman in 1979, and much later, as older stars who had nothing left to prove, in Our Souls at Night in 2017. Fonda often spoke of her feelings toward Redford. She admitted openly that she carried a strong attraction for him, sometimes playfully describing it as a crush that never really left her. Yet life never gave them the space to pursue anything beyond friendship. Both were married at different times, and those circumstances kept them from stepping across that line. Still, she cherished the closeness they shared, holding on to the knowledge that it was rare to have such a long-lasting connection in the industry. Redford, on his part, seemed surprised when he learned years later how deeply Fonda felt about him. His focus had always been on the work, and though he cared for her as a friend and colleague, he had not realized the depth of her affection. Yet the dynamic between them remained unchanged, always carrying that spark that audiences could sense on screen. Fonda later reflected on their last collaboration, Our Souls at Night. By then, both had aged. Their careers had taken them through triumphs and setbacks, and the world saw them as legends. For her, working with him again brought back not just memories, but also a new understanding. She recognized how she had grown over the years. In her earlier films with him, she often blamed herself when he arrived to the set in a difficult mood. She thought she had somehow caused his frustration, but in later years she understood that his moods were his own and had nothing to do with her. That realization freed her, allowing her to enjoy their time together without the weight of self-doubt. The bond between them stretched beyond the screen. At premieres, interviews, and festivals, they stood side by side, showing their respect and affection for each other openly. At the Venice Film Festival in 2017, when Our Souls at Night premiered, they appeared together as two seasoned actors who had walked through decades of Hollywood and still shared a natural ease in each other's presence. Fonda spoke with honesty about how she felt during the making of their earlier film, Barefoot in the Park. She remembered how she struggled to keep her hands off him, how natural their closeness felt. She even laughed about how that dynamic carried into their final film together, where their characters portrayed late-life love. She also spoke about the tenderness of their on-screen intimacy. For her, those scenes were not just about acting, but about rediscovering that spark after so many years. She admitted how much she enjoyed filming romantic moments with him, whether in her 20s or nearly in her 80s. The connection never faded, and she carried that joy as part of her memories. Through all of this, Fonda held on to a deep respect for Redford as a person. She admired his intelligence, his sense of humor, and the values he stood for. She noticed the way he carried himself, his love for nature, for trees, mountains, and horses, which mirrored her own passions. These shared interests created another layer to their friendship, making it feel grounded and genuine. When Redford passed away, it was not just the loss of a co-star or a friend. It was the closing of a chapter that spanned more than 6 decades. Fonda had walked alongside him through changing times in Hollywood, through the rise and fall of trends, through the shifting pressures of fame. He had been a constant presence in her professional life and an anchor in her personal journey. To her, his demise felt like the loss of a part of her own history, a reminder that even the strongest bonds eventually reach their end. She carried forward the memories of their laughter, their long hours on sets, the moments when she leaned on him during interviews, and the times when their friendship felt like a rare treasure in a world often defined by brief connections. For Fonda, the story of Robert Redford would always be tied to her own, written across decades of film and life, carried with affection that never dimmed. And in remembering him, she also reminded the world of the beauty of a friendship that lasted, shaped by love, respect, and the kind of bond that does not break, even when life moves on. The story of Jane Fonda and Robert Redford is one of the most fascinating in Hollywood, not just for their on-screen magic, but for the whispers that followed them for decades. From the moment they first met on the set in 1960, there was a spark. Their chemistry was impossible to ignore, a force that drew attention not only from directors and co-stars, but from anyone watching. Over the years, as they worked together, the chemistry only intensified, fueling rumors that a real-life romance had developed behind the scenes. The public fascination began with little hints. During filming, insiders noticed how they would linger in conversation, how laughter seemed to follow them wherever they went, and how their on-set energy never mirrored the typical closeness of co-workers. Jane, at the height of her youthful charm, and Robert, with his smoldering looks and intense vibe, appeared drawn to each other in ways that went beyond friendship. Their shared scenes sizzled with tension, and audiences could feel the attraction that supposedly existed off-screen. Despite the speculation, both were married at the time, and no one could claim to have evidence of a full-blown affair. Jane Fonda has experienced 3 marriages in her lifetime. Her first marriage was to French filmmaker Roger Vadim in 1965, but the union ended in 1973. Shortly after, she married politician Tom Hayden in the same year, but that relationship also eventually collapsed. Later in 1991, she tied the knot with media mogul Ted Turner, though their marriage lasted only a decade, ending in 2001. Robert Redford, on the other hand, has been married twice. His first marriage took place in the early 1970s to Lola Van Wagenen, with whom he had 4 children, Scott, Shauna, James, and Amy. Tragically, their eldest son, Scott, passed away at just 2 months old, and another son, James, lost his life in 2020 after a battle with cancer. In 2008, Redford married again, this time to Sibylle Sagers, a German artist 20 years his junior. Sibylle Sagers is also the founder of The Way of the Rain, a nonprofit organization she established in 2015. The initiative focuses on combining art and education to raise awareness about climate change and environmental protection. Through large-scale projects involving dance, film, visual art, and music, she uses creative expression as a tool to inspire people to take action and care for the planet. Her work emphasizes the power of art in motivating social and environmental responsibility, blending creativity with purpose. These details illustrate the personal journeys of Fonda and Redford. Both have gone through complex personal experiences while remaining influential figures, yet the rumors persisted. Hollywood has always been a place where attraction can be magnified, where every glance or touch becomes a base for gossip columns. Friends, co-workers, and journalists whispered about secret dinners, late-night phone calls, and private moments between the two that only they would ever know. Even casual observers sensed a closeness that seemed hard to define. The intensity of their alleged attraction was never publicly acknowledged, but those close to them could sense it. On set, Jane often appeared captivated by Robert, her attention lingering on him longer than anyone else. Robert, for his part, seemed both aware and cautious, maintaining professional boundaries while occasionally allowing warmth and connection. This tension between desire and restraint became a defining feature of their relationship, feeding speculation that Hollywood fans would carry for decades. As years passed, the media revisited the story repeatedly. Every reunion on film stirred renewed interest. When they collaborated on Our Souls at Night in 2017, the world watched closely. Here were two actors in the autumn of their careers, returning to roles that mirrored their lives in unexpected ways. The intimacy they portrayed on screen, coupled with decades of shared history, led many to wonder whether old flames had ever truly gone off. The film's themes of late-life love seemed to echo a possible secret chapter in their own lives, even if it was never confirmed. Insiders hinted at moments that might have fueled the rumors further. Private conversations, playful touches, and supportive gestures that went beyond professional courtesy were all scrutinized. Social events, premieres, and award ceremonies often became stages for signals. Some claimed that their laughter together carried a hidden familiarity, that their gestures suggested a closeness no one else could penetrate. Even casual onlookers sensed that there was a bond that went deeper than friendship. Yet at the heart of it, the alleged affair remained just that, a story, a mystery. Jane and Robert never publicly admitted to crossing lines, and there was no concrete proof that their relationship ever went beyond attraction. This created a space where imagination and rumor merged, allowing Hollywood gossip to paint a picture of secret romance that may or may not have existed. Fans debated, reporters speculated, and the story became a part of their legacy, entwined with the films, awards, and decades of work that defined their careers. The intrigue also highlighted the challenges of being stars in a world that constantly observes and judges. Every action, every glance, every smile between them was interpreted and analyzed. What might have been simple friendship, mutual admiration, or unspoken affection was often twisted into evidence of a secret affair. And yet, despite the rumors, they continued to support each other in public, showing the loyalty and care that had defined their decades-long bond. In the end, the alleged affair between Jane Fonda and Robert Redford remains a story built on chemistry, timing, and the fascination of an audience eager for romance in real life, as well as on screen. It is a tale of attraction restrained by circumstances. Whether true or not, the story casts a shadow of mystery over two of Hollywood's most iconic figures. Their connection, intense and magnetic, will always be remembered, not only for the films they made, but for the questions that followed them, and the unspoken emotions that may have never been revealed. Even without confirmation of an affair, the energy between them became a legend of its own. Their story shows how passion, friendship, and Hollywood intrigue can weave together into something larger than life. Fans will always wonder, debates will continue, and the memory of their connection will remain. A fascinating chapter in the lives of Jane Fonda and Robert Redford. In order to fully understand how Redford became the legend he is today, let's take a look at his life and career in the film industry. Charles Robert Redford Jr., entered the world on August 18, 1936, in Santa Monica, California. His mother, Martha Woodruff Redford, came from Austin, Texas, while his father, Charles Robert Redford Sr., made a living as an accountant. He also had a half-brother on his father's side named William. The family's ancestry blended Irish, Scottish, and English roots, threads that ran through several generations. In time, the family built their life in Van Nuys, California, while Redford's father worked in nearby El Segundo. Childhood for Redford was not without hardship. During his early years in Los Angeles, he was struck with polio, at a time when vaccines did not yet exist. The illness forced him to spend weeks in bed, struggling to regain strength. Thankfully, his condition did not require the use of an iron lung, but the long recovery left a lasting effect on him. When his health finally returned, his mother rewarded his endurance with a trip to Yosemite National Park. Driving through the tunnel and into the valley, the sight of towering cliffs and rushing waterfalls carved itself deep into his memory. That breathtaking moment planted the seeds of a lifelong love for nature. Frequent trips to Austin to see his grandfather added even more depth to his bond with the land and the outdoors. School, on the other hand, never felt like the right fit. Redford attended Van Nuys High School, where he shared classes with future baseball star Don Drysdale. He struggled with academics and admitted to being a poor student. Instead, he threw himself into other passions. Sports gave him a rush of energy, while art allowed him to pour out his restless ideas. He also played tennis at the Los Angeles Tennis Club, where he even hit balls with Pancho Gonzalez as part of his training. Meanwhile, his high school years were also filled with mischief. He often surrounded himself with groups who tested boundaries and ignored rules. On graduation day, while most students focused on the ceremony, Redford sat at the back of the auditorium flipping through Mad magazine, more interested in cartoons than in the moment unfolding around him. In 1954, he graduated and moved on to the University of Colorado at Boulder. He tried to settle into college life, joining the Kappa Sigma fraternity and working shifts at a local restaurant and bar called The Sink. His time there was memorable enough that his image would later be painted into a mural on the wall. However, his days at Boulder were shaped by habits that held him back. He drank heavily, and this behavior cost him the partial scholarship that had supported him. Eventually, the university expelled him, leaving him adrift with no clear path ahead. Instead of sinking into despair, he chose to step out into the world. He scraped together his savings and set off to Europe, where he lived in France, Spain, and Italy. By the time he was 19, he had saved enough to spend a full year wandering across the continent. He sketched and painted wherever he went, chasing his dream of becoming a painter. Europe opened his eyes not just to art, but also to politics, culture, and different ways of living. The experience reshaped his outlook and gave him confidence in his craft. When he returned to the United States, he enrolled at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York, to study painting more seriously. He also explored animation, sharpening his technical skills while keeping his creative energy alive. But during this time, a new interest began to take shape. By the late 1950s, Redford's curiosity led him to the stage. He enrolled at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Manhattan, where he trained as an actor and graduated in 1959. This step marked a major turning point. Though art remained close to him, acting brought a new spark that began to guide his future. The young man who once drifted had now found a calling. His early years, filled with struggle, discovery, and searching, shaped the foundation for a career that would eventually reach far beyond anything he had first imagined. A career with a difference. Robert Redford's journey in Hollywood moved through so many stages that it became one of the most extraordinary in the history of film. He started in the 1950s with small television roles, learning how to adjust to different kinds of storytelling. Each show he worked on, whether it was drama or lighter entertainment, helped him figure out how to shape a character. Every small part added to his understanding and skill. These early experiences did not seem like much at the time, but they built a foundation that would carry him forward. By the early 1960s, Redford had made his way onto Broadway. On stage, he discovered how to hold an audience and sharpened his timing and emotional reach. Theater gave him the chance to explore the depth of his performance, learning how to draw people in. Hollywood soon noticed his combination of charm and magnetism, and he began to land roles that allowed him to show more than just his looks. A few years later, he started appearing in films that revealed his ability to handle complex stories, and audiences began to take notice. The late 1960s brought Redford his first major breakthrough. He teamed up with Paul Newman, forming one of the most memorable partnerships in cinema. Their energy on screen was electric, and it became clear that Redford was not just another actor but someone with real staying power. In 1969, his role in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid made him a global star. That film did more than bring fame. It gave him the nickname Sundance, which he later turned into a platform for independent filmmaking. During the 1970s, Redford's career climbed steadily. He delivered hit after hit across different genres, showing he could move easily between rugged adventure, political drama, and emotional romance. He kept audiences engaged because he never repeated himself. Each role added a new layer to his growing body of work, reflecting various sides of American life and culture. His versatility made him more than a leading man. It made him a symbol of storytelling itself. As time went on, Redford started to think beyond acting. He realized the power film had to explore ideas and influence society. In 1980, he directed his first film, Ordinary People. The story focused on family struggles and emotional challenges, and he handled it with precision. The film earned critical acclaim, winning the Academy Award for Best Picture, while Redford received the Oscar for Best Director. This success showed that he was a force both in front of and behind the camera, able to shape stories in a way few actors could. Even before this, in 1978, Redford had founded the Sundance Institute. What began as a small organization in Utah eventually grew into the Sundance Film Festival, now the world's most important showcase for independent cinema. Through Sundance, he gave young filmmakers and storytellers a chance to be seen, providing opportunities that Hollywood often didn't. His work with the festival helped launch many careers, and it became clear that Redford's influence extended far beyond his own acting and directing. Through the years, he balanced multiple roles in the film world. He appeared in political dramas like The Candidate and thrillers such as 3 Days of the Condor. He directed movies that explored justice, history, and personal struggle, including A River Runs Through It and Quiz Show. Each one showed his attention to detail, patience in storytelling, and interest in human and societal conflict. His films explored the tension between individuals and larger forces, reflecting both personal and social concerns. Redford continued to act in significant films as he grew older. He played a wealthy schemer in Indecent Proposal, a military officer in The Last Castle, and even appeared in projects that reached younger audiences, including roles connected to the Marvel Universe. These later performances showed he could still embrace his age while commanding attention on screen, carrying the same presence and charisma that had defined his earlier career. Beyond his work in film, Redford used his platform to highlight environmental and social issues. His choices often reflected these interests, as he gravitated towards stories with strong moral or political themes. His career became more than just entertainment. It became a way to trigger thought, raise awareness, and encourage action. His influence shaped both the movies he made and the industry itself, setting an example for future generations of artists. Even after stepping away from acting, Redford remained an important figure in cinema. His career spanned decades, from the rise of television actors in the 1950s to to the world of modern independent filmmaking. He had been the young actor learning his craft, the Hollywood star leading major films, the director shaping complex stories, and the mentor providing a stage for new voices. His impact stretched across generations, leaving a mark on every part of the film world he touched. What are your thoughts on the life and legacy of Robert Redford? Do you think he had any intimate feelings for his co-star Jane Fonda? Let us know your views in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.